Rock and Sand Apologetics welcomes you to Bible Study 20 of the characters of the Lord of the Rings. This is also lesson 11 of the Friends of the Fellowship. Let's get right to it. Say friend and enter. But fear no more. I would not take this thing if it lay by the highway, not if Minas Tirith fell in ruin and I alone could save her, so using the weapon of the Dark Lord for her good and my glory. No, I do not wish for such triumphs, Frodo, son of Drogo. We meet Faramir in the wilds between Minas Mogul and the Anduin and Mordor itself. His charge is to hold that territory and thwart any enemy attempts to cross there and attack Minas Tirith. We learn that from him in his discussions with Frodo, whom he captures because the Hobbit is wandering with Sam in lands that no free creature roams. What we learn of Faramir is that he is the second son of Denethor, steward of Gondor, and that Boromir was his brother. Yet no two brothers could be more unlike one another. While they were both mighty men of valor, Faramir possessed a wisdom that his brother did not, nor did Faramir possess the pride of his brother. I picked the above quote from the Two Towers because it shows how different these two boys were. The one was simply overcome with a desire to possess the ring of power. In his mind, it was the only way to beat the Dark Lord. Faramir, on the other hand, realized that to try to wield such a weapon would only be playing into the Dark Lord, and he would have none of it. Boromir died for giving in to his temptations. Faramir, on the other hand, was elevated for resisting the very same temptations. At the end of the epic, we see Faramir made ruler over a portion of the land and married off to a wonderful woman whom he fell in love with, while both he and she were being tended to in the houses of healing in the Gondor. There are several examples in Scripture uh, that seem to teach us the same thing. There is, for example, Cain and Abel, although in that instance the innocent died at the hands of the guilty. There's Joseph and his brothers who, after a time as a slave and for a time as a prisoner in Egypt, was elevated to the second highest post in the land of Egypt. And he might have be in a position to provide for his family in the coming famine. The most significant similarity, however, is that of Jacob and Esau. Born to the same parents as twins, and yet totally different. Esau was hairy and muscular. He loved to hunt and one might suppose enjoyed the pleasures of life. Jacob, on the other hand, had smooth skin, was pampered by his mother, took care of the things around the house, and he tended to the goats. And that's where things went wrong. He was making some stew, and Esau came back empty-handed from hunting. Those of us who grew up in a church know the story well. You see, the firstborn inherited a special blessing called one's birthright. Esau was willing to sell his for a bowl of stew. When it came time to ante up, of course, Esau wasn't about to let Jacob have his birthright. Jacob's mother convinced Jacob to deceive his father, which he did, and gained the blessing due the firstborn son. Esau was enraged, and Jacob fled. Years later, they met one another again. By this time, God so blessed Jacob that he is a rich man in his own right. He is considered a true man of God. The house of Esau grew also, but with it grew conflict. Esau was like Boromir, self-confident, powerful, proud. Jacob, however, was reliant upon God, strong, but not overly so, and humble, not proud. He was like Faramir. Just as Esau uh, received the curse instead of the blessing, so did Boromir receive a curse instead of a blessing. And just as Jacob received a blessing instead of a curse, so also did Faramir receive blessings instead of a curse. When we come to places in our lives and have to make a choice, be like Faramir, like Jacob, not like Boromir, nor Esau. Resist evil. Do not exalt yourself, and do the will of God with all your might. He gives you to do so. It was said to her, the elder shall serve the younger. As it is written, Jacob I have loved, but Esau I have hated. What shall we say then? Is there unrighteousness with God? God forbid. For he says to Moses, I will have mercy on who I may have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. Romans 9:12 through 15.